And there we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be in the world. Here we are, David, on Coffee Talk at Coffee Talk Live on YouTube, as well as on Prepper University on YouTube, and later to be broadcast on fistfulofradio.com. And I'll show that for you if you're watching. It's a sticker. Fistfulofradio.com, which is a podcasting service where you can find me Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I see we already have some people piling up here. There's Dragon, there's Helter, there is Boogers. He says, good afternoon to everyone. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Well, it's afternoon where I am. Here is Dusty, keeping me company. For those of you who are watching, you can see Dusty and her brother sitting in the chair back there. There's Daniel sitting in the chair, getting ready to settle in for a nap, I suppose. And Dusty and Daniel are brother and sister strays. As many of you are aware, my wife and I take care of many stray animals, and that is what the GoFundMe project is for. And I put a posting on here again because people have still been asking about it. We do have an active GoFundMe project for the stray animals that we take care of. And thank you again to everybody who has helped and participated in that. It means a lot. I see also All People is here. Lucky is here. Who else? Sean is here. It says, good afternoon, everyone checking in from Northern Illinois. Mandanimal is here. Paranoid Prepper. Paranoid, huh? I don't blame you. John is here, says fellow cat shepherd. And I will try to read as many comments as I can, of course, for those of you who are listening and not able to actually watch. You want to get down, Dusty? All right, you can get down here. There goes Dusty. But you can still see Daniel sitting in the corner there. Stuart is here. Appreciate everybody for popping in today as we do our little live bout with the media, as we take a look at some news articles and some news clips and some other things that are going on in the world and pick it apart. Pick it apart. What's what, what's new, what's real, what isn't. It's hard to tell anymore. It's actually very difficult to tell what's real and what isn't in the media because things are exaggerated a great deal. That's a common problem nowadays. The media likes to exaggerate. They like to blow things up, and they like to equivocate. They tell you part of the truth, but not the whole truth. Not enough of it that you can make a logical, discerning decision about anything that you see and hear, but enough to spin a narrative, whether you like it or not. And that's really unfortunate that that's a position that we're in. Something I've talked about before, where once upon a time you used to watch the news and they would give you as much information as they had available, and you would decide how you felt about that. And now they tell you how to feel and how to think, and you have to decide if it's even true or if it's even real anymore. R. Frost says, good afternoon from Big Sky Country. John says Daniel's a guard cat. Yeah, I don't trust him to guard anything, but yeah. Lucky says, I've been enjoying the news show, just don't always catch it live. Well, you caught it today. And Monkey is here, says hello. All People says, the information you shared yesterday regarding the history of your wife's family and specific historical ethnic grouping was very helpful, and a link to it has been shared with many. Okay, good. Yeah, because apparently the only place, and Monkey, I think that was you, wasn't it, was instrumental in helping with that you really can't find much on it on the internet for what Ayers land is and how it ties in with freed slaves and reparations, because it was in the 1800s that they got that. But apparently you can find some of that on the Department of Agriculture. Arakel is here. Excuse me. Yeah, John says media is only propaganda. That's about what we're getting to now. Lucky says, sounds like Satan, the media, partial truths. Yeah, enough of the truth to spin your head, but not enough for you to make a proper decision about it. All People says agreed. Society is no longer provided with news so much as it is provided with views. Very well put. And Monkey says, yeah, it was found on the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Yeah. R. Frost says downplayed, ignored in the media. Yeah, there are things that they ignore too, and that's just as bad. And Bam says, will you shock us with something the media did lie? Will you shock us with something like the media did lie? The media is always lying to you. As a matter of fact, that ties in with the very first thing that we're going to take a look at, which you all knew this was this whole like global warming and climate change and stuff was a load of crap anyways. And this comes from the Washington Examiner. And they very cleverly say, fact check throws cold water on global boiling claims. Because I've been hearing that global boiling. And they make some points here that are very important. And that's why I wanted to read this, because you're not hearing this. And the one that I hate the most is all the advertising from so-called climate moms. Have you heard these commercials or seen these commercials? Oh, we're climate moms. And they talk about and they're not real moms, they're actors, okay? I will remind you that when you use real people in advertising, they have to tell you that they're real people. And the only organization currently doing that is Chick-fil-A, of all places. And they will tell you in the commercial, real customers paid for a testimony. That's the rule. So when you see people in these commercials, they are proposing to be a doctor, a nurse, a climate mom, whatever the hell they say they are. They're actors, unless it specifies that they're a legitimate person. So that's important to understand. John says, just HV, plenty of stuff. You will be happy. Mandanimal says, I only see one thumbs up on my screen. I only got one thumbs up? Oh, no. Well, and Johnny is here. He says he is listening. Oh, glad you could join us today, Johnny. Reading through this article from the Washington Examiner. And again, this is something you already knew. I'm sure most of you are aware of. July was hot, no doubt about it. Media reporting on the heat wave was a raging wildfire of global warming hype. But was it the worst ever July scorcher, as the Washington Post, the Associated Press, USA Today, and others have reported? According to a group of fact checkers who dug through the reports, the weather didn't live up to the hype. In fact, the July media climate fact check turned around a Washington Post claim about July being the hottest in 125,000 years. Wow, that is a big claim. We've been recording temperatures for 125,000 years. Headlining the report is worst media coverage in 125,000 years. In picking apart specific media stories about the heat, the report provided two secrets acknowledged the unusual heat wave, but it also cited two anomalies that skewed the data. I wish that would hold still. I hate when the advertisement tries to break in and it makes the thing pop up and down. It's hard to read. The impact of El Nino and a 2-day spike in Antarctica's temperature that helped raise the so-called global temperature. What's more, it noted that since U.S. satellite data, this is important, on global temperatures have only been collected since 1979, it is impossible to compare temperatures from 100 years ago or 125,000 years ago. So it's not possible to claim that July 2023 was the hottest month in the history of civilization because such data does not exist. Read the analysis from the Competitive Enterprises Institute, the Heartland Institute, the Energy and Environment Legal Institute, the Committee for a Constructive Tomorrow, the Internal Climate Science Coalition, and Truth in Energy and Climate. Those organizations have long urged the media to tap the brakes on the climate change hype, but news outlets have stomped the accelerator instead in recent years. And also, as we have discussed in previous videos, in recorded timelines, the highest recorded temperatures in the United States to date actually took place in the 1930s. But as they pointed out here, Satellite data has only been around since 1979, and that's what they're going off of. Now, you can take core samples and make a guesstimate from an archaeological dig as to what a temperature may have been during certain periods, but there's still nothing to connect that this is hotter than other times in history. And keep in mind that where we are right now is at the very end of a previous ice age. So, yeah, naturally, it's going to be warmer. It's going to be warmer. Let me see. Here we are, where we are with the comments as I catch up just a little bit. Just a little bit. Lucky says, "Are climate moms hot?" No, only temperature wise, of course. Arakel says, "On fire." Oh, I see. You guys are joking. Arakel says, "They're burning the island of Maui as we chat. It's bad." Also, by the way, we are not having record wildfires. We've had much worse situations with wildfires in the past as well. That's another one that the media is lying about blatantly. We are not having record wildfires right now, despite the fact that they are a lot of them being set deliberately, in my opinion, especially Canada. I'm looking at you, Canada. R. Frost says they also don't tell you things like the Sahara Desert actually used to be a forest, temperate rainforest long before people got here. I wonder what happened. Monkey says, "Of course, we've been recording temperatures for 125,000 years. Just ask the Flintstones." Of course. And Alaskan Soul says, we at KLW News put our numbers of the like and the live chats. This way we know who actually liked the video. It's another way to make sure YouTube isn't trying to hide the views on the channel. And and they tell you that and I've said this before, I'm sure many of you know what I'm going to say. They tell you that the thumbs up helps the algorithm. I don't believe it, but I appreciate it. Dragon says, "Several days ago, the UN chief claimed the era of global warming has ended. The era of global boiling has arrived. He's full of BS. He scared the sheep out of their money and creature comforts." And there are a lot of people who believe this. Alaskan Soul says, "For instance, my like is number 3. Okay. And All People says, "Exactly, actors, nearly every one of them, hired by the globalist controlled Mockingbird media in order to engage in social engineering via lies and emotional manipulation, trauma, and terror." Yeah, John says, "Climate Karens." Indeed. Helter says, "While global boiling sounds incredibly bad, we should do everything we can to stop that, like, say, take away all the private jets for these politicians and powerful figureheads." That's not going to happen, Helter. That will never happen. They want you to change, but they're not going to change because you're the problem. Bam says, "We're here and had a pretty cold summer. Must be global warming." Yeah. Megan says, "We don't have record wildfires, just record arson." Yeah, there you go. And Cruising said, "Science history teachers signed in at the right time. Preach it." Yeah. We don't, we're not, there's no global boiling. That doesn't make any sense. It's not the hottest on record, and the records haven't been kept that long. And again, we're at the tail end of an ice age. We're coming out of an ice age, whether people realize this or not. So yeah, things will get warmer, and they will continue to get warmer, but not so much so that it will bring an end to civilization as we know it. That doesn't make any sense. Nature Nerd is here. He says, "The fact that it's so cold no one can live in Antarctica except a few researchers means the Earth warming a little bit would help us, and we don't want it to get colder." Mandanimal says, "My screen is still stuck on one thumbs up. YouTube is so real." Yeah, they do it to me on purpose. They don't like me, and that's okay. I'm not worried about it. As long as I can keep broadcasting, I'll be all right. Now, a big item in the news here that is very important for a variety of reasons, for what they're not showing more so than what they are, is the Alabama riverboat fight. The Alabama riverboat fight. And I'll show you a little bit of NBC News here talking about it, and then I'm going to show you, and I've had a very, very difficult time getting footage for this. Now, yesterday, I could find unedited footage of this. Now I can't. Now I'm having a lot of trouble. And it's important to see the unedited footage. And I'll tell you why in a minute. I'll tell you why. Cruising says we're one large volcano eruption away from global cooling and it could happen anytime. Yeah, that's true. Because if it's a big enough volcanic eruption, you're going to have a volcanic winter for like 2-3 years easily. And it's happened several times in the past. R. Frost says, that be sarcasm dripping off my last comment. Yep. And Monkey said, if the people want to really freak out, they would have to be alive for the next few 100 million years to see the Earth naturally kill itself and then the sun explode afterwards. But we'll take a look at this, a little bit of this from NBC News, because this is kind of long. But just to give you the gist of it, I'm sure you've already seen this. And then I'm going to play the best I could find of unedited footage, because, like I said, I think it's kind of important. What is this doing? All right. My thing is acting up. We'll go ahead and run this.
Tonight, Montgomery, Alabama's mayor reacting to a fight between two groups on the city's riverfront, saying it never should have happened. Videos of the incident went viral. The person recording this one telling NBC News it started because a pontoon boat was blocking the spot where the riverboat she was on needed to dock. She says the crewmen from her boat disembarked, and you see the fight starting right there. People just were joining, then it just turned into this massive all-out brawl, groups punching, shoving, kicking. At one point, someone even ends up in the water. The mayor says they are now investigating the incident.
Something that we take very seriously and deliberately, as with any matter that happens throughout our city regarding public safety. We are fully engaged and we are doing all of our due diligence to find out exactly what took place.
Okay, now, two important things. The first, what they did was they ran two separate video clips together so that you never saw that there was actually a break in the fight. Secondly, they know what happened. They say they're trying to find out what happened, but they know, and I'm going to tell you what happened. John says they're trying to start a race war. Yeah, they're making it look like that's what it is. They're making it look like that's what it is. Now, I'm going to show you another section of footage here really quick. This is the best I can do. Like I said, it's important to take it in the right context, and then we'll talk about it. I'm sure many of you have seen this already. And like I said, it's this part I think is important. Let me see when this comes up. You see that all right? Here we go.
Those guys who parked there were told not to leave it there, and they left it there.
That almost looked staged with him flinging the hat in the air. So that guy comes in. And then here comes like 2-3 other people trying to separate the fight. Now, this is several minutes later after the fight was broken up and it was all over. Now, the news media ran these two clips together like they were the same. And my issue was finding it unedited so you could listen to it.
Those guys who parked there were told not to leave it there, and they left it there.
All right, let me take that off. Oh, Cougar is here. Says late but here, and Anarchy is here. Now, here's the basic breakdown, and everybody involved in this is wrong for a variety of reasons. First of all, they weren't supposed to dock there, and they did anyways, and they had been called out over the loudspeaker apparently, and told, move your boat, and did not. So that guy who comes out, the black guy, is a security guard. However, he was kind of, from my understanding, and I could be wrong, but from what I've read, verbally aggressive. Now, these people on the boat, the one guy, he got pissed off because I guess of the way he was talking to, and started a fight, started a physical confrontation. And as I pointed out while you were watching that first clip, when he takes the hat off and tosses it in the air, I'm like all flamboyantly, I'm like, that looks really staged to me, but we'll leave that alone for now. So he was wrong for being aggressive in the first place, verbally, even though I can understand because, you know, you're a human being, you deal with that kind of crap all the time. You have your tipping point. Plus, we don't know. He might know those people. This might be a common problem with them. Maybe he's just fed up. You again, give me a freaking break. I can see that. I can totally understand that. But if he's being nasty about it, he's out of line. The guy who attacked him is out of line because this is not something to fight about. It's not something to fight about. And then other people got involved that it wasn't their business. So he's fighting this guy. You don't fight 2 and 3 on 1. Another group comes from the boat and breaks the fight up. The fight is over. The police have been called. And you saw in the second video clip that the media runs these two together to make it look like it was ongoing the whole time, which it was not. Several minutes later, the police are there. People are arrested, black and white. Okay, by the way. A group of people from the other side of the dock now show up and restart the fight, looking for revenge, I guess. We're gonna get the white guy now because they were fighting a black person. You restarted a fight and you don't know what actually happened and you're interfering. And there are police there now. And you saw that one police woman, she was holding up something, must have been a taser, I'm guessing. And in all of this, the thing that really annoys me that you do not get a sense of from any of the news stories, and I tried to show you in that last clip, which is why I wanted to find one that still had audio, even though it had itself been edited because cuss words were bleeped out and they turned the volume down, is how the crowd is continuing to instigate this. The people who are filming this, the people that are spectators hanging over the rail watching, are egging it on, trying to encourage them to fight like they're at a boxing match. That really made everything worse. They instigated things. They were loud. They were obnoxious. They added to it. And that's the part that really gets under my skin, is just the ignorance of the spectators who were filming this. Bam says, planetary, talking about the previous subject, planetary alignment will make some friction in the Earth's crust next year, so we may see increased volcanic activity. And Freedom for All says, the cop just worried about her gloves. Yeah, maybe. And R. Frost says, love that Cobra Commander flag. Oh, yeah, that's my, again, I got Cobra Commander and I've got Hollywood Hulk Hogan, and they're my picks for president and vice president. And Rodney is here, and Rodney made a donation to the channel, made a $10 donation to the channel. Thank you very much, Rodney. Always appreciated. Goes a long way towards taking care of our stray animals, our little shelter that we have going. And he says, at this point, it's clear that the MSN and most legacy social media are working against us. They want chaos and mayhem. Yeah, because that was edited badly, and they took all the audio out. And I think that audio is crucial. That audio tells you more than what you're looking at almost. Listening to the crowd just cheering it on and encouraging them to escalate. And it's unfortunate. Helter says, the case goes to show how easily race riots can be triggered. It boggles my mind how our country hasn't erupted in another civil war. And it's not being counted as a race or a hate crime because there is, with the police investigation, they found nothing to corroborate that. No slurs. There was no threats, no instigation. The problem, according to everyone involved, was because they just refused to move the damn boat. The FBI says, no, we're not touching it. So that's already out the window. I'm sure they can instigate it into something. And remember also, both black and white people have been arrested after that fight. That's something to keep in mind. But it will be made to look like it's completely race-based, though, because that's what the media likes. They like it because it keeps us divided and it keeps us engaged with their news services. Dragon says it feels like the whole incident is an accidental crossover from the alternative universe where we went to the Australia route and got rid of all guns after Columbine. Oh, can I say the C word? I don't know. I might get in trouble. Lone Star says, coming in hot. Thanks for joining us today, Lone Star. See Daniel back there, grooming himself like he always does. Cleanest cat on the planet, I swear. But like I said, the thing that irritates me the most is just how that crowd continued to egg things on. They were so ignorant and so savage about it. Again, like they were at a boxing match. This isn't a boxing match. This is a serious thing. You don't know where that fight could have gotten to. Somebody could have been killed in that fight. What if someone on that boat was armed and that crowd came running looking for revenge for something that they had nothing to do with, and he started firing at them? Because, people, when they're being egged on like that, being encouraged, they don't think about that kind of thing until they're in the ambulance on the way to the hospital or the morgue. You know what I mean? Johnny says, wouldn't Homeland Security get involved with that because it's a boat incident? I'm not sure. Well, they were docked, though. I'm not sure. And Eric Hill says, anyone observed animals and pets acting not like before? I haven't. They haven't changed their behavior in my perspective. Freedom for All says, seems like just about every scenario is playing out. Which one will come out on top? But they're going to make it about race. A lot of news outlets are going to make it about race. A lot of like talk shows and stuff, like The View. I could see The View eating this alive. They love that kind of stuff. They want it to be about race so that they can push their narrative. They want us to be divided. If we're divided, we can't come together. And I think that comes from Sun Tzu's The Art of War. We're like a fist, or China's like a fist. Everybody is separate doing their own thing. But if you can bring them together, you can bring those fingers together, you have some power. So they want us as separated as possible all the time so that we can't get along. Cruising says Douglas Murray had a great book called The Madness of Crowds that describes this kind of BS behavior quite well. Yeah. And John says avoidance of crowds is my SOP. I don't blame you. I do not blame you at all for wanting to avoid crowds because mob rules. I'm sure you've heard that before. Cruising said The View wants to push a narrative about racial issues to their 95% white and female audience. Yeah, they have a view. It's only one view, but there is a view. And then they have their token conservative who pretends to be conservative so that they can pick on them. It's really kind of pathetic, actually. And Alaskan Soul says, I can tell my open hand will hurt a lot more than a closed fist. And Bam says, a lot of hate, and then cyber pandemic happens to hit. And Freedom for All said, just moved to the middle of nowhere, feeling good about my decisions. Hey, good. Hide out there. Stay out there. Watch the world burn, because it sure will. And not because of climate change. The world is going to burn because people are doing it. We're being led that way. Interesting article coming up here from the Daily Caller. I'll read in a moment. Just wrap up the comments section. Lucky says maybe some triads on the next boat kicking everybody's ass would have helped out. Triads have enough trouble as it is right now in Hong Kong. Daily Caller says shareholder sues Target over billions lost after Pride campaign backlash. So now Target is being sued by their shareholders who claim that they were misled in that advertising campaign. And John says blacks would lose horribly. A lot more whites with guns. Blacks are busy killing each other. And then R. Frost says a crowd of that size constitutes a severe disparity of force and a shod foot is a lethal weapon in all 50 states. Some dumb ass definitely could have shot that place up legally. Immoral AF though. Yeah, immoral indeed. The whole thing is wrong. Like I said, everybody involved in that was wrong. The crowd, the guard, the way he came off, even though, like I said, I understand he probably had reached his last straw with it because they had already warned those people to move the boat and they weren't listening. They were just being ignorant about it. So the guard was wrong. The guy who started the fight was wrong. The crowd who re-instigated the fight was wrong. And the people who were involved in the second brawl were wrong. I mean, it's just a mess. It's just a mess. But a lot of people feel entitled to behave that way. Cougar says, want me and my family to run into a Stargate in the mid-1940s to a cabin in Yellowstone and stay there. And Alaskan Soul says you should check into the sun and the effects it has on Earth and earthquakes, along with weather cycles. We will enter a new ice age soon from all the volcanoes going off the last few years. And Cruising said ignorant bastards will be the downfall of it all. But into the new article again, the Daily Caller, reading on. America's first legal, that's the AFL, a legal activist group, sued the Target Corporation and its board of directors on behalf of a Target shareholder, alleging the company misled shareholders and lost investors billions, according to a new lawsuit. Target announced a Pride collection in May 2023 that marketed the alphabet community-themed clothing to kids, including onesies with the transistor flag. I have to be careful how I pronounce some of these words because of how YouTube is. And alphabet-themed books for children, which resulted in a boycott of the stores and the company's stock losing billions. The lawsuit alleges that Target's diversity, equity, and inclusion and environmental, social, and governance policies, the fact that they even have that annoys me, weren't designed to benefit all shareholders and only benefited an ideological agenda, ignoring past DEI-related company failures, such as Bud Light's loss in sales due to hiring an Alphabet ambassador. And you know all about that. Target Corporation betrayed, and this is a quote, betrayed both Target's core customer base of working families and its investors by making false and misleading statements concerning Target's environmental, social, and governance and diversity, equity, and inclusion mandates that led to its disastrous 2023 children and family-themed Alphabet Pride campaign, the lawsuit reads. Target's now infamous children and family-themed Alphabet Pride marketing and sales campaign, which embroidered Target in the culture war and caused Target to experience the biggest stock decline in the company's history, costing investors billions. The lawsuit continues. Bud Light experienced a similar backlash when it sent Dylan Mulvaney, a well-known trans influencer, a personalized Bud Light can, made Mulvaney a brand ambassador, which resulted in the company losing billions. For the week ending July 22, the Anheuser-Busch brand sales dipped nearly 27%, and Anheuser-Busch has had to sell off multiple brands, which I'll talk about here in a minute. So now basically they're being sued. They're getting sued because their advertising campaign, they lied to shareholders about the direction of that advertising campaign for the Alphabet community, even though they had had previous failures with Target branding in that direction. And now they're being held accountable for it. Bams says, well, to be fair, I'm not listening when some tyrant are babbling about nonsensical rules. Alaskan Soul says, I have not been on this channel before, but I can give you some bombshell information if you want it. And it's C19 related. If you wanted to put something in the comment section, you're free to. We are going to be talking about sunspots here in a minute. Nostalgic Podcast is here, and he says, a little bird told me Coffee Talk with David Eon will be on 5 days a week at Fistful of Radio starting this week, Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. and Friday at noon Atlanta time. So that's Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so now now Fistful of Radio is going to have me on 5 days a week. Excellent. That's good to know. Cruising says you want annoying DEI stuff. Just did the required training for the school district yesterday. Oh, I can imagine. Quote, public assistance status is now a protected group according to their policies. Wow. I can imagine, because public school has gotten really bad. It was bad when I was a kid. I can imagine now. And my experiences with it have for both as a student and professionally, have been horrible. John says, I've seen a lot of Bud Light and coolers, as has Station. Other brands are slim. All people said some channels have called it the Skittles flag in an effort to not get in trouble for making any references to rainbows. Yeah, because you can get in trouble in YouTube. Helter says the investors will have a hard time proving that Target intentionally cut into their profit margins. Businesses run themselves into the ground, and these kinds of lawsuits still don't work. Yeah, and that very likely that's probably where it will end up. Alaskan Soul says you'll need to make me a mod so I can put the link in. Well, Alaskan says I don't want to be a mod for this channel, but I can do it just to link this to you. Or you can tell people where it can be found, because I don't want to put a brand new person in a mod, if you understand. But that ties right into Anheuser-Busch, what we were talking about, because Anheuser-Busch is selling brands to recoup some of the damages. And Megan says, you didn't know you were going to be on 5 days a week. Surprise. No, my understanding was Monday through Thursday from at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But now apparently I'm also going to be on, thanks to Nostalgic Pod Blast there, Friday at noon. Megan says, yeah, I just read that. I forgot to pull it. Alaskan Soul says Rumble. And R. Frost says America has become an asylum. Unfortunately, the inmates are running the facility. And Anheuser-Busch, and this is on the street. You can find this on the street. That's the name of the website. Anheuser-Busch is selling 8 of its beloved brands as Bud Light drama plagues its business. And one more here from Erikel, and I'll read the article. It says, from the Pacific Northwest, the sun has shifted into white color for a white-like plasma torch. 2 days ago, sunset was deeper orange amber. Haven't seen that for a long time. It's because of a cycle that the sun is in, and I'll read up on that in a minute, because it's another scare being put into you by the media with that. Article goes on to say, it's been months since the onset of the Bud Light controversy, but the decision to dive headfirst into the thickest of American culture wars is only just catching up with the Anheuser-Busch InBev SA. The data suggests Bud Light is hurting. You think? As of the week ending July 29th, Bud Light sales dropped for the 17th straight week in a row, down 29% year over year following the company's decision. They put companies here twice. The company's decision. Bad syntax, the street. Bad syntax. To partner with Transgender Society media personality Dylan Mulvaney as a spokesperson. And I'll tell you again, Dylan Mulvaney is a fraud. He is not a transistor, as they say, to stay in compliance with YouTube. Because remember, originally he was claiming to be a little girl until this came along. Then he was a woman. He's not T anything. He's an actor, and this is an angle. I don't believe that he really believes that at all. Its financials might not be cheery, but its struggles extend beyond the accounting books. Bud Light lost out as the most popular beer in America to Modelo. And images on social media now regularly pop up showing Bud Light being sold for less than water. Then late in July, Bud Light parent company Anheuser-Busch made the difficult decision to cut thousands of employees. The job cuts affected approximately 2% of its workforce, or 350 positions. The company claimed mostly corporate employees were affected, calling the move a very difficult but necessary decision. Regardless of favorability, our consumers across all the sentiment groups have 3 points of feedback in common. 1, they want to enjoy their beer without a debate. 2, they want Bud Light to focus on beer. 3, they want Bud Light to concentrate on the platforms that all consumers love. CEO Michael Ducaris said in a pullback from the culture wars debate during the Q2 earnings call. You're just now figuring that out? And we'll run down here and to tell you the brands that they're selling. As it says right here, according to early reports, Anheuser-Busch will sell the following brands to Tilray, Shock Top, Breckenridge Brewery, Blue Point Brewing Company, 10 Barrel Brewing Company, Red Hook Brewery, Widmer Brothers Brewing, Square Mile Cider Company, and Highball Energy. 8 companies I never heard of. But I don't drink, but I never heard of any of these. And I pointed out before that, remember, Anheuser-Busch owns a lot of microbreweries, and that's what it looks like they're dumping on Tilray here, who made an offer that they don't tell you how much, which is what it goes on to say here, that they're not going to let you know what it is. So, yeah, they're selling off brands now to try to catch up. All People says, can you put the Fistful of Radio link in the description box for this video? Yeah, I'll do that. And Stacy is here. It says, I missed yesterday's live. You can still catch the rebroadcast or again, fistfulofradio.com, fistfulofradio.com. Dragon says, let's not forget Gillette's loss of billions when it decided to start airing woke commercials that were pretty much a slap in the face of its entire customer base. That's true. Helter says that's a bad sign. It screams of we are desperate for cash. A simple, real apology could have saved them, but they chose to keep the pain train going. Alaskan says, I don't know if you can see the link. I don't know either. And LA Red says, what do you think about giving your iris from your eyes for $20? What are you talking about? You can't sell your iris. Alaskan Soul says, I won't give anything for their new money systems. And Delo says, I'm getting here late. I'll watch this after. Well, at least you made it. Better late than never, as they say. We were just running over that Anheuser-Busch is desperate enough that they're selling off apparently some of these microbreweries that they've been buying up for the last 10 years or so. People weren't even aware of how many microbreweries Anheuser-Busch under InBev has been purchasing in the United States, which is why I had pointed out if you were going to boycott Bud Light, you have to boycott everything InBev is connected to in order for it to truly have an impact. Because even at these losses, it's still something that InBev can absorb. Ultimately, keep in mind that Anheuser-Busch is no longer an American company. They sold their company out years ago. It's not an American company. It's not an American tradition anymore. It has not been for over a decade. John wants to know, could Bud Light hype or Bud Light thing be a psyop? You never know. Dragon says this is clear in a clear and irrefutable sign that we have customer power and that it's having effects. Now we need to keep up the pressure and pick off one company at a time. The only way you can protest effectively is with your money, quite frankly, because running your mouth or making clever comments on Twitter doesn't change anything. In my case, I can't boycott Anheuser-Busch or InBev because I already don't buy anything that they produce, but because I don't drink or anything like that. Fluke Man says, hi, late again, but better late than never. Bud Light lorry drivers claim they encounter people purposely blocking roads in front of the vehicle while they're driving because it's Bud Light. That's terrible. And Betty says, I'm so glad I caught you live. New sub here and a big fan. Well, thank you for joining us, Betty. Glad you were here. Alaskan says, they'll kill me before I put anything in my body. Those who do this only give consent to be a slave, and I'm no slave. I don't bow down to a government who sells their own country and its people. Are you talking about inoculations? That sounds like you're talking about taking a shot. And Megan says, I think it's a German company. InBev, I think InBev is from Norway. but I could be wrong. But anybody can look that up real quick if they're curious, and just tell us in the comment sections, and I'll read it off if it pops up. But I think it's a Norwegian company, if I remember correctly. But it's been sold out a long time ago. And we have a Anarchy chiming in here real quick. It says Tilray stock is down today, but had been doing well. Guess the Anheuser-Busch brand sale was a poison pill. Well, if they buy those things out, it's no longer under Anheuser-Busch's umbrella, and then that changes. Nostalgic here says nobody won a war with a keyboard, but you can get the word out unless censorship rears its ugly head into the discussion. Money talks. Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, you can get the word out, but it's up to people to make a choice. That's always the important thing. Now, we were talking about the climate a little bit earlier. Just one more here. Alaskan says, no, I'm talking about the whole thing shots and now the money chips and eye trackers. I see. Oh, is that what you were talking about with the what was being talked about with the iris? And John says Belgium company. Okay, thank you, John. I knew it was somewhere around there. Anyways, I'm going to pull this up and I'm going to read this to you. And we're going to take a look at what is left out of this article. I looked at a few articles on this one, actually. I did read a few of these. We're going to talk about what's missing, and then what is mentioned in the article that's glazed over is more important than what the article's talking about, and that it comes from Science Alert. Science Alert. Are you afraid? Are you afraid? You should be, because according to Science Alert, a solar flare just knocked out radio across the U.S., and more are on the way. Crawl under your beds, folks. Megan says, I have 10 years sobriety this month, but Bud Light was my weapon of choice way back in the day. I don't miss it. Okay, good. That's good that you've been sober for that long. Excellent. But I'm sure you probably have heard about this. I'm going to read it through, and I'm going to make a couple of points. A wild few days for the sun are being felt around the earth as the effects of its tantrums lash us across the gulf of space. On the 7th of August, the sun unleashed a powerful X-class flare that caused radio blackouts across North America. Space weather forecasts also predicted a combined cannibal coronal mass ejection that erupted several days ago on the 5th of August would clip our atmosphere in a glancing blow. While it might still produce a late arriving solar storm, forecasters now suspect it may have missed altogether. We might expect to see this sort of solar behavior increasing in the coming months as the sun escalates towards its peak of its 11-year activity cycle, predicted to take place in July of 2025. The sun has been consistently spitting out daily eruptions for over 18 months now, but it's definitely ramping up. June and July each saw an X-class flare, the most powerful classification we have for solar flares. Okay, and it goes on, but here's the point. First of all, and there's been several articles about this. R. Frost says my comments regarding free tickets keep getting removed. Really? I haven't even seen them either. I'm not seeing them on this end. LA Red says WorldCoin Sam Altman launches eyeball scanning crypto coin. That's weird. Is that what you were talking about? And then John says CME has been active. Yeah, of course it has, because it's that time. Alaskan says we have had 4 X-class flares in the last week and a half, also multiple CMEs, and now proton events are taking place. And LA Red says here in Florida, the heat is so strong that it's damaging the air conditioners in supermarkets and homes. And Alaskan says, I watch these flares very closely. And Bam says, an EMP that no one did notice, ho ho, be ready for the lights may go out. And Dragon says this is false information designed to control people through fear and to make money off the sheep. Dragon figured it out. Here's the thing. All right, a solar flare knocked out radio across the U.S. That's in the title. Sure, it did. Now, I have not been able to find a single article. I looked at about 8 or 9 of these from different news sources Not a single one that can tell you how many radio stations or how long, or whether it was the radio station itself that was interrupted from broadcasting or it was the satellite that was blocked. No one will tell you. Why not? Because for all you know, it was two 50,000 watt radio stations in the middle of nowhere. You have no way of knowing. Second of all, you're going to see more disruptions nowadays because everything is digital. Solid state technology holds up better. A cathode ray TV has a better chance of surviving a solar flare than a flat screen, a modern digital flat screen does. So without all the solid state technology, then the digital stuff is more susceptible to this kind of thing, which is why all the nuclear silos have never updated their technology. They're all still using stuff from the 70s because it's safer and it's harder to crack into. From the perspective of like someone trying to hack systems like that, they can't get into them. People don't even know how to use the written language from that stuff anymore. Thirdly, we're at the closing peak of an 11-year cycle that the sun goes through every 11 years, and they glaze over it right here. 11-year activity cycle, and which will end in July of 2025. As you get closer to the end of that 11-year cycle, you're going to see more activity, and then it should drop off unless something unique happens, and then it'll build back up again because that's the cycle the sun goes through. This is normal. But we're going to blow it up in the news and we're going to fluff it by making a statement like that, knocked out radio across the US, without telling you how many radio stations or where they were or how long they were affected and whether or not the radio stations themselves were blocked or it was satellite interference. That is a scare. That is a scare piece. That is designed to frighten you with because most people are not going to read into it as deeply as I just did. Stephen Riley is here. He says, "What's up? What's going on today?" We're talking about solar flares for the moment. Wayne says ham radio high frequency. John says analog is better. Analog is better. It holds up better. Solid state holds up better than does anything digital when it comes to an electromagnetic pulse, solar flares, wherever it's coming from. Solid state lasts longer and holds up better than does all this digital stuff that we're using now. Helter says, when the sun is at its most active, there are more solar storms and more solar flares. There are also more CMEs or coronal mass ejection activity. True. But this is a scare tactic. And we've seen a bunch of that in the news. And like I said, I read through like 8 or 9 of these articles and I'm like, you're really not telling me anything. You're really not telling me anything. And then they never bring you down from it. They use all these buzzwords to make it sound like you're in so much trouble. Powerful X-class flare. You know, it's scare tactics. And then when they get to the activity, they just kind of glaze over it and then get back to scaring you with the X-class flares, most powerful classification and solar flares nonsense that they're spewing at you. So no, this is not something to be terrified of. If that was bothering you, anybody. That's not something to be terrified of, but I like pointing out stuff like that because it's important. It's important for people to pick this kind of stuff apart and to be aware of it and to be aware of the fact that the media loves to sensationalize everything. Also, just because there is a flare doesn't mean it's going to hit us directly. And if it does hit us directly, that's another story because it's random the way it's thrown out. But quite frankly, even though the sun is massive, we're a small target. Alaskan says flares have enough energy that passes through the magnetosphere and can cause health problems to headaches and also heart problems and much more. Well, I wouldn't want to have a pacemaker, especially a modern one. A digital pacemaker, can you imagine? That's something to worry about. Wayne says, my worst fear is the Biden dictatorship. Well, you're already living in it, so hang in there. It's almost over. I don't think he's going to make it. I don't think he's going to make it. He's too much of an embarrassment. And we have one more article here that I wanted to glaze over. And who is this? Number one Marvel fan. How are you doing today, Marvel fan? This is a topic of discussion that I think is kind of interesting. This happened a couple days ago, and it was barely touched on the news. You didn't really hear about this. Well, they talk about these issues constantly, but this they don't talk about. And this comes from the American Insider. It says 35-time racing champion quits over transistor athletes dominating her sport. This is important. It's a shame that you have a champion athlete that is retiring at the age of 35 because she can't take it anymore. Legendary 35-time professional cycling champion Hannah Ironsman is walking away from her sport at the young age of 25. Oh, I read it backwards. She's 25, 35-time professional cycling champion. I got the numbers mixed up. Due to the rise of transistor women dominating the sport. In some races, transistor women are winning by a whopping 5 minutes. Quote, "I was born into a family of athletes," Arnsman said in a statement. "Encouraged by my parents and siblings, I competed in sports from a young age, and I followed in my sister's footsteps, climbing to the ranks to become an elite cyclocross racer. Over the last few years, I've had to race directly with male cyclists in women's events. As this has become more of a reality, it has become increasingly discouraging to train as hard as I do, only to have to lose to a man with the unfair advantage of an androgenized body. Excuse me. It's bouncing up and down because of the ads. It's hard to follow sometimes. That the intrinsically gives him an obvious advantage over me. No matter how hard I train," she continued, "I have decided to end my cycling career." And she goes on to say, and this is a quote, "At my last race at the recent UCI Cyclocross National Championships in the elite women's category in December 2022, I came in 4th place, flanked on either side by male riders, awarded 3rd and 5th places," she explained. "My sister and family sobbed as they watched a man finish in front of me, having witnessed several physical interactions with him throughout the race," she continued. "Additionally, it is difficult for me to think about the very real possibility I was overlooked for an international selection on the U.S. team at Cyclocross World in February 2023 because of a male competitor." So she's had enough and she's walking away. LA Red says, "Do you know or have any videos on how to make a homemade air conditioner in case of any problems with electricity?" No, I do not have a video on homemade air conditioners, actually. I do not. Alaskan says, "Don't fear things, people. Just be prepared for anything. Fear will only control you, and this is what they want. The world elites have had this in the works to control us for a long time." I can agree with that. And Dragon says, "The real problem here is the prominent female athletes have the power to stop this, but they choose to do nothing about it." And then Alaskan says, "You can break this fear and overcome it. Once it's done, they have no power over you." Yeah, I agree. To a point, they have no power over you because they can still ruin your life. But yeah, I know what you mean. I do. Dragon, I'm going to get back to your point because this ties in with what I'm talking about here. The real problem here is the prominent female athletes have the power to stop this, but they choose to do nothing about it. How can they? First, it's being forced on them as much as it's being forced on us. Second of all, from a feminist perspective, they have been being told their entire lives over the last few decades, for the last couple of generations, not only are you equal to men, but you're better. You don't need men at all. Then you have men proposing to be female, entering athletic events and crushing them. repeatedly, constantly. It's getting to be a huge problem, as a matter of fact. And her protesting by walking away is probably the only thing she can do. Maybe if I quit and I'm vocal about it, at least I'll get in the media and people will see that we're getting sick of this. Because what else is she going to do? And again, like I said, you have all these females that have been told, women's empowerment, you're better than men. You can do, you don't need men at all, this and that. And then being shown up for, guess what? In not all cases is that true, especially when it comes to athleticism. There's a reason why men and women have had to participate in sports separately. Watch any marathon and see who comes through first. I've watched the Boston Marathon when I lived there. The wheelchair guys come through first because they're on wheels, then the male runners, and then sometime later, the female runners start coming in. Why do you think that is? Because the male runners are stronger and have more endurance. They're designed that way. And it's not a rub on women that males are designed differently. Lone Star says, bingo. And Dilo says they should make a third athlete. Yeah, if they're going to insist on these people participating, they should make a third category. But if they do, no one's going to do it. Again, you're not seeing women or male transistors, if you will. Women who became men are not entering athletics. Men who claim they're female are entering athletics. Men who claim they're female who cannot compete in their own sports against men are going into women's athletics and beating them. Monkey says, or to word it friendly, phobia of transistor radios. Yeah. Lone Star says feminism has put women in a corner on that issue. I believe it. Alaskan says, just a reminder, it's the 1% against the 99%. Yeah, but they have all the cards. It's kind of like in the movie They Live, when the guy at the very end, the sellout, when they accuse him of selling out, he says, Roddy Piper, Nada's character, says to him, you did it to your own people. And he says, and sure, why not? We can't fight them. They own everything. I may as well get a taste. Paraphrasing, but you get the point. And Betty says, exactly. And Moki is here. Moki, you're so late. I'm ready to sign off. And She Sells Seashells says, we can thank women's lib for so much of today's demasculation. It is a huge problem. There's nothing wrong with being a male. There's nothing wrong with being a female. And we've been taught that there is. And that's something we can pick up on a little bit more at another time. But I do have to go ahead and sign off. Remember, this will be saved on YouTube. So at Coffee Talk Live on YouTube, if you're listening and not watching, also shared on Prepper University, and also shared with, let me open that up so you can see what I'm doing here, fistfulofradio.com, where I can be found Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and apparently Friday at noon now. Friday at noon. So 5 days a week on fistfulofradio.com. Please do check it out and check out some of the other channels there, some of the other broadcasts on that podcasting service. And I was asked to put a link to Fistful of Radio in the description on this video. I will do that as soon as I sign off. So thanks for joining us here today. Hope everybody got something out of this. And we will do this again soon.